Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jai Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jai Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madan Mohan, Radha Madan Mohan Radhe. Jai Gauranitai, Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Baladev, Jaya Subhadra. Jai Prabhupada. Nitai Gaur Haribol. Jai Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajakacarya Stotra Sata Shri Srimad Divine Grace Labai Charanarvinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajakacarya Stotra Sata Shri Srimad Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद की जाए। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जाए। ब्रजभूमि श्री वृंदावन धाम की जाए। नवद्वीप श्री मायापुर धाम की जाए। पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र श्री जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जाए। गंगा माँ यमुना माँ की जय, वृंद देवी तुलसी महारानी की जय, श्री हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद ट्रांसलेंडल बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन की जय, द मोस्ट मर्सिफुल लॉर्डशिप श्री श्री राधा मदन मोहन जी की जय, द मोस्ट मर्सिफुल लॉर्डशिप श्री श्री गौनिथाय की जय, द मोस्ट मर्सिफुल लॉर्डशिप श्री श्री जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्र महारानी की जय, ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, सामवेद गौर भक्त वृंद की जय, Nitai Gaur Premanande, all glories to the assembled bodies, all glories to the assembled bodies, all glories to the assembled bodies, all glories, all glories, all glories to Sri Guru Gauranga, all glories to Sri Prabhupada ki. Just this fan. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Shaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Ruttama Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 23, entitled Maharaj Prutu's Going Back Home, text number 17. Indriyeshu manastani Indriyeshu manastani Tanmatreshu yatodbhavam Tanmatreshu yatodbhavam Bhutadinamun yukrishya Bhutadina munyutkritsya Mahatyatmani sandadhe Mahatyatmani sandadhe Indriyeshu manastani Tanmatreshu yatodbhavam Bhutadina munyutkritsya Mahatyatmani sandadhe Indriyeshu manastani Tanmatreshu yatodbhavam Bhutadina munyutkritsya Mahatyatmani sandadhe. 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 Indriyeshu manastani Tanmatreshu yatodbhavam bhutadinamunyutkritsya mahatyatmani sandadhe. Any Matajis? Indriyeshu, in the sense organs. Manaha, the mind. Tani, the sense organs. Tanmatreshu, in the objects of the senses. Yata udbhavam, wherefrom they generated. Bhutadina, by the five elements. Amoni, all those sense objects. Utkritsya, taking out. Mahati, in the Mahat Tattva. Atmani, unto the ego. Sandadhe, amalgamated. Shri Shri Gaunitai, Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan, Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani Ki Jai. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. He amalgamated the mind with the senses and the senses with the sense objects according to their respective positions, and he also amalgamated the material ego with the total material energy, Mahatattva. Please repeat. He amalgamated the mind with the senses and the senses with the sense objects according to their respective positions. And he also amalgamated the material ego with the total material energy, Mahatattva. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In respect to the ego, the total material energy is sundered in two parts. One agitated by the mode of ignorance and the other agitated by the modes of passion and goodness. Due to agitation by the mode of ignorance, the five gross elements are created. Due to agitation by the mode of passion, the mind is created. And due to the agitation by the mode of goodness, false egoism or identification with matter is created. The mind is protected by a particular type of demigod. Sometimes the mind, mana, is also understood to have controlling deity or demigod. In this way, the total mind, namely the material mind controlled by material demigods, was amalgamated with the senses. The senses in turn were amalgamated with the sense objects. The sense objects are form, taste, smell, sound, etc. And sound is the ultimate source of the sense objects. The mind was attracted by the senses, and the senses by the sense objects, and all of them were ultimately amalgamated in the sky. The creation is so arranged that cause and effect follow one after the other. The merging process involves amalgamating the effect with the original cause. Since the ultimate cause in the material world is the Mahat Tattva, everything was gradually wound up and amalgamated with the Mahat Tattva. This may be compared to Sunyavada or voidism, but this is a process for cleansing the real spiritual mind or consciousness. When the mind is completely washed of all material contamination, the pure consciousness acts. The sound vibration from the spiritual sky can automatically cleanse all material contaminations as confirmed by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Cheto Darpanamarjanam. We need only take the advice of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and chant the Hare Krishna mantra to cleanse the mind of all material contamination. And this may be considered the summary of this difficult verse. As soon as the whole material contamination is washed away by the process of chanting, all desires and reactions to material activities become immediately vanquished, and real life, peaceful existence begins. In this age of Kali, it is very difficult to adopt the yogic process mentioned in this verse. Unless one is very expert in such yoga, the best course is to adopt the ways and means of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. Thus one can gloriously become freed from all material contamination by the simple process of chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Just as life in the material world has its beginning in material sound, similarly spiritual life has its beginning in the spiritual sound vibration. Om Jnanati Mrandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vancha Kalpatarobhishya Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam pangam langayate higrim yatkrpatamaham vande Shri Gurum Dinatharinam. Srila Prabhupada mentioned in the purport that this is a difficult verse. It's a difficult verse in the sense that the process that is mentioned in this verse is a very, very, very complicated process. Because only perfect yogis, they can get disassociated with the coverings on the soul. If we know how the soul actually comes to this material world and takes on different coverings, then one can uncover those coverings and go back home, back to Godhead. So, it's a very complicated process. It is mentioned in the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, how the whole process of the soul falling down from the spiritual world to the material world, what is the scientific process, it's all explained very clearly. First of all, we don't have that much intelligence nor the memory to understand and keep things in our mind. But there are certain essential points that Srila Prabhupada has mentioned. So what are the essential points? We'll discuss one by one. The soul or Atma has its characteristics. And what are the characteristics of an Atma is thinking, feeling and willing. These are the characteristics of Atma. And thinking, feeling and willing, they are all controlled by the desires the Atma develops. So everything boils down to desire. When the desire, in the spiritual world, the desire is to serve Krishna in various ways. And as that desire expands, various opportunities are created for the soul to serve Krishna. Similarly, when the soul desires to enjoy, then opportunities are created for the soul to come down to the material world and enjoy in various ways. So, as Srila Prabhupada described very beautifully, taking on the verse from Bhagavad Gita, which Krishna says in the 13th chapter, Karanam gunasangosya sad asad yoni janmasu. Everything, the karanam, the root cause of everything is the sangha. Sangha means association. So karanam gunasangosya sad asad yoni janmasu. So we discussed that desire is the cause of everything, but desire is also produced by association. So you can say association is the karanam. So when we are always in the association of pure persons, we will develop pure desires. When we are in the association of contaminated people will develop contaminated desires, which is very, very clearly understood even in this world. Suppose if you are associated with saintly persons, you will become saintly one day or the other. But if you are associated with criminals, drunkards, meat eaters, etc., then obviously one day or the other one will be attracted to those things. So Karanam, what is that Karanam? Sangha. Sangha. So Sangha is what either keeps us in the spiritual world, or Sangha is what brings us to this material world. So from Sangha what comes? Desire comes. And desire is the what drives the soul. And what are the characteristics of the soul? Thinking, feeling and willing. These three things are directed by the desire. Desire is directed by the association. This is the whole process. And how things are unfolded, it is mentioned. The total material energy in the beginning of the creation is called Mahat Tattva. That Mahat Tattva is also called unmanifested material energy of the Lord. This energy actually is the energy of the Lord. And this energy is agitated by the glance of the Lord. So when it is glanced by the Lord, the energy unfolds into various manifestations. And those manifestations take place, and then the whole material world gets created. Before the jivas are implanted, the facilities are created in the material world. So what are those facilities? First of all, what is the facility that is needed for the jiva to enjoy? Is that the jiva has to forget that he is devotee of Krishna. He is servant of Krishna. Jiva has to forget. If he does not forget, he cannot enjoy. So, that forgetfulness of Krishna is called false ego. So, that is what is first of all created. And to falsely think like that, you need to have false intelligence, false mind, false senses. Everything false means temporary. Temporarily, our original ego is covered by false ego. So there are two egos, true ego, false ego. True ego means that our original identity is called true ego. False ego means misconceived identity is called false ego. So what is our true ego? True ego in Sanskrit it is called Swarupa. Swarupa. So what is our Swarupa? Jivera Swarupa hoy Nityera Krishnadas. That is the Swarupa of the living entity. The original constitutional position of the living entity is servant of Krishna. So that is covered by false ego. So now it is mentioned here how false ego is produced. False ego is produced by the combination of mode of goodness with mind. The mode of goodness with mind creates this false ego. Just see how complicated it is. It is said that from false ego comes the intelligence, and then the mind comes, and then these are subtle elements, and there are 5 gross elements are there, and those gross elements are bhumir, earth, water, fire, air, ether. Ether is the element which produces the subsequent elements. From ether comes air, air comes fire, fire comes water, water comes earth. From water comes earth. And ether is associated with sound. So ether is the sense, sound is the sense object. So senses get amalgamated with sense objects, and sense objects get amalgamated with mind, and mind gets amalgamated with the false ego, And that is how the false ego gets amalgamated with Mahat Tattva. This is how the whole unfolding of the creation happens. So we are all thinking that, this is mine, this is mine, this is mine. Nothing is ours, because, our own mind, our own intelligence, so-called our own intelligence, we have owned it up. It's actually, taking on some little intelligence from the totality of intelligence, taking a little mind from totality of mind. It's all belonging to Krishna. It's all Krishna's energies. Krishna says, Bhumira Panalo Vayu Kamano Buddhirevacha Ahankara iti yamme bhinna prakriti rashtada. I have created this material world with 8 elements, and these 8 elements are this: earth, water, fire, air, ether, and mind, intelligence, and false ego. These are the totality of energy. So when you actually leave the body, what happens? Either by your own yogic power or by the arrangement of the Lord, this can happen. These 8 elements get amalgamated with the totality of the elements. So great powerful yogis, they can actually uncover the body with these 8 elements and amalgamate them, and then directly go to the spiritual world. We cannot even conceive something like that in this present age, and with the present intelligence and with present fallen condition that we are in. But it is said that there are expert yogis are there who actually live through this Brahmarandhra, which is there at the head, top of the head. They travel through Brahmarandhra, they give up everything one by one, one by one. And just like a very, very beautiful sequential scientific mechanism, everything happens automatically. Earth gets mixed with earth, water gets mixed with water, air gets mixed with air, everything gets mixed, and then there is a totality of everything is mixed with the totality of the energy of the Lord. So, now Prabhupada is making a very important point here. The point is that, you see, your journey in the material world started with sound and Akash. Sound is the sense object, Akash is the sense. So, just like the sound has brought you, sound is a sense, sense object. And that sense object, how did you get the sense object, that particular sense object? Because you have certain desire. And then how did you get that certain desire? Because of wrong association. This is what we have established in the beginning of our discussion. When you have wrong association, you hear wrong sounds. When you hear wrong sounds, you get wrong elements or wrong senses. You develop wrong senses. Karanam guna sangosya. So that means everything has to be unwinded with the same thing. Now you hear right sound, then you develop right senses, right sense objects, right senses, and right body. Everything will be developed if you hear right sound. If you hear a wrong sound, wrong things happen. Just like it is said, Vishwamitra was a great tapasvi. So when he was meditating, first of all, he heard sound, which distracted him. The original distraction started with the sound. What was the sound? The jingling bells of Menaka. She descended from the heaven and she started walking. When she started walking, the jingling bell sound fell in the ears of Vishwamitra Muni. Then she started doing this with the bangle sound. She produced another sound. Slowly, this sound has drawn Vishwamitra Muni to the association of Menaka. And then slowly associated, and then everything happened. All yogic powers were finished. So the sound has such a tremendous effect, either to elevate you or to degrade you. Why sound has such an effect? It is scientifically explained how sound has that effect. Sound is the sense object. The associated sense is the Akash, and from Akash comes the intelligence, and then the mind, and then from the mind comes all the other elements. Everything comes. These are called 8 coverings, one after the other. So the last covering is actually the false ego. So you are packed with false ego. Your whole body is finally made, and then package is false ego package. So you're packed up by false ego and sent. Now you enjoy in this material world. So when you are unpacking, the first thing that you have to cut is false ego. Unless the false ego is cut, you cannot even touch the other elements. So how do you touch the false ego? Which is a very subtle thing. You cannot use knives to cut false ego. Or you cannot use any other subtle weapons to cut the false ego. But there is one weapon that can actually cut false ego. And that weapon is called sound weapon. Because sound goes through all the elements and reaches all the way up to false ego. So that sound is, Prabhupada is saying, Hare Krishna mantra. Because this Hare Krishna mantra sound is not of this world. This is descended from the spiritual world. Golokera premadhana harinama sankirtana. This sound is actually Krishna's own incarnation. Kalikale namarupe Krishna avatar. Krishna has personally descended in the material world in the name of Krishna. So when you are chanting Krishna's name, we are actually associating with Krishna. When you are associating with Krishna, we are disassociating with all kinds of contamination, because Krishna is Paramam Pavitram. He is supremely pure. So those who are chanting Hare Krishna, even without their knowledge, they are actually associating with supremely pure person, that is Krishna. So that is why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Cheto Darpana Marjanam Bhava Maha Davagni Nirvapanam. It actually cleanses the mind with all kinds of contamination. All kinds of contamination means mind is a repository of impressions that are accumulated over millions and millions of births that we have taken when we came to this material world. Every sense associated with a sense object takes on an impression, stores an impression, is stored. And where is the storing place for those impressions? Mind is the storing place. And the storage is such, it's like a computer record. In a computer record, you press a particular button, immediately that associated program gets activated and immediately manifests in the screen. So similarly, when we are associating with certain senses with certain sense objects, certain effect that comes. And why this effect comes? Because it's already stored in the mind. From millions of births that these impressions were stored. So all these impressions are false impressions only. Why they are called false impressions? Because these impressions were formed with a desire to enjoy. So unless you completely clean all these impressions, it's like formatting a hard disk. Unless you hit the button format, the hard disk will not be clean. So similarly, unless we cleanse the mind completely, and how do you cleanse the mind completely? By chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. This process of chanting Hare Krishna is so powerful, though we may not know that it is so powerful. People sometimes simply, they giggle and then say, this Hare Krishna, they don't know anything to do, so that's why they are simply saying Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna बोलने से कुछ हो जाता है क्या? तुमको क्या मालूम है क्या होता है क्या नहीं होता? Because you don't know the whole scientific philosophy behind it. You simply say. That is why our acharyas, they say, even if funnily if somebody says Hare Krishna, they feel very happy. Nityananda Prabhu went to Jagai and Madai and told them, you chant Hare Krishna once. And that fellow said, I will not chant Hare Krishna. He said, you just now chanted Hare Krishna, he said. And he started dancing. That you just now chanted Hare Krishna. Some of our devotees in the West it is very difficult to preach Krishna consciousness. Very difficult to preach. People are so much, interested in sense gratification, they are not ready to hear even 1 second of yours. So that is why our devotees, what do? They are very, very beautiful, wonderful. They just take with a mridanga, karatal, and then, looked at people and say, hey, chant Chaitanya. And they say, Chaitanya. Then they jump in ecstasy. Chaitanya, Nityananda, like that. These fellows, they keep looking at them. What happened to these mad fellows? They just asked me to chant one name, and then I said, one sound. For them, it's not even a name. For them, it's just a sound. They can't even pronounce that sound properly. And, they don't even ask them to chant Hare Krishna because people already have certain impression about Hare Krishna. So, they say, chant Gauranga. Then they say, Gauranga. Something like that they say. Then they jump in ecstasy. Gauranga Nityananda, Gauranga Nityananda, Gauranga Nityananda. It's like a festive mood. And when they're jumping and all the others, they take on, the mobile phones and then they start chanting and then group around and then run around them and all that. They're actually administering a very, 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 very powerful medicine to these materialistic people who do not know what it is. What is that powerful medicine? Bhava Aushadhi. Bhava Aushadhi means that which actually completely cures of all your material contamination. So, although we have been chanting from years, we don't actually know the true glories of chanting Hare Krishna, so to say. You're just chanting Hare Krishna, but the true glories are mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam by great acharyas. And there are much, much more deeper glories that are there, which we don't even know. So, Prabhupada is such a complex verse it is. Complex verse in the sense the complex process is explained in this. Prithu Maharaj is the incarnation of God, so he could afford to amalgamate the different elements with the totality of elements. We are not yogis, we are bhogis. So what we can do? So we are, for us, the easiest process that is given to us, that is simply chant Hare Krishna mantra. Then Krishna will do it. You don't have to do it. You don't have to pull out your, false ego, mind, intelligence. Krishna will do it. You leave it up to Krishna. He will do it. He will take that pure spirit soul. Personally, he will associate. He will take it and back home, all the way back to Godhead. He will accompany the soul if you become a devotee of Krishna. So that is why the process of Bhakti Yoga is so powerful, because you are giving the whole authority to Krishna to take you back home, back to Godhead. And with any other process, you are doing with your own strength. Karma balena, jnana balena, yoga balena. With all the bala, you will not be able to go back home, back to Godhead. So that is why bhakti is very powerful, because bhakti, Krishna is the one who takes responsibility, full responsibility of the soul. Ananyas chintayanto mam yejana paryupasate tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyaham. This is Krishna's promise. Those who are always thinking of me, ananyas chintayanto mam, without secondary thought, if they are always thinking of me, ananyas chintayanto mam yejana paryupasate tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshemam. I will take care of their yoga and kshema. This is Krishna's promise. So all we need to do is simply chintayanto mam, simply think of Krishna. And the best way to think of Krishna is simply by chanting Hare Krishna. There is no better way than thinking of Krishna, than chanting Hare Krishna mantra. So that is why we see Haridas Thakur is a great example of thinking of Krishna by chanting every day 192 rounds. It requires a great amount of sattva-guna to chant Hare Krishna. All of us are experiencing. For us, chanting 16 rounds in installments itself is very difficult. And when your mind is agitated, you cannot even sit and chant. You will walk and chant because your mind is agitated. You know very well. Suppose suddenly you are chanting Hare Krishna, but suddenly some thought comes to do some action. Immediately, involuntarily, you get up and start walking. I'm sure every one of you must have experienced. I have experienced innumerable times. So, to sit and chant, to focus on the sound, it requires a great amount of sattva-guna, great amount of concentration. So that is why Prabhupada knew this, that we are so restless, so he has only said 16 rounds are enough. If we were born in Bhakti Siddhanta's time, we would be chanting 64 rounds. If we are a disciple of Haridas Thakur, you would be chanting 192 rounds. Fortunately, we are not disciples of Haridas Thakur or Bhakti Siddhanta. We are followers of Srila Prabhupada. Fortunately, I am saying, because our mind is so restless, we will not be able to do it. Even 16 rounds is very difficult. In the beginning, when we are asked to chant Hare Krishna, one Hare Krishna mantra also, it is very difficult for us. Prabhupada very mockingly said, I am asking them to chant, chant, chant. They are able to say can't, but they are not able to chant. What is the difference between chant and can't? Only H. Isn't it? C-A-N-T can't, C-H-A-N-T is chant. That's all the difference is. You are able to say can't, but you are not able to chant. So people are very, very lazy. Spiritually, people are very lazy. They are ready to do anything. You ask them to play with a mobile phone for hours together in the train journey or wherever. But they can't tolerate a devotee. Once one devotee was chanting Hare Krishna and the next fellow was doing mobile phone. He is playing with mobile phone. So he is chanting Hare Krishna a little loud. So that fellow who was seeing mobile phone, he was getting disturbed. He said, can you please stop this? That means he is not ready to hear this Hare Krishna mantra because it is seriously interfering with sense gratification business. Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Ram, 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 Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. He is not chanting so loudly also. That zoom sound also is disturbing him so much. This is the situation of the people of this world. It is true. So, so as Prabhupada very beautifully said towards the end of the purport, he said, just as life in this material world has its beginning in material sound, similarly, a spiritual life has its beginning in this spiritual sound vibration. So your spiritual journey begins with this sound. Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. What it does to you, you leave it to Krishna. You don't have to worry. Just like when you take a medicine, you don't worry about how the medicine is getting into different nerves, different, body, different angas of the body and, curing the disease. You don't worry about it. You just take the medicine, it will take care. Similarly, when you are actually chanting Hare Krishna, what it does is explained here. How that sound will actually produce, it purifies your consciousness, purifies your mind, purifies your intelligence, changes your desires. Everything happens just by chanting Hare Krishna mantra. Without your knowledge. Just have faith that chanting can do all of this. Let me chant Hare Krishna. If this simple faith, if one can accumulate, then his life is perfect. That is why Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not try to explain the philosophy. This we are talking about 500 years ago, when the culture was much better than now. How did he deal with general people? The general people he only dealt with by simply chanting Hare Krishna mantra. By the congregational chanting only, he changed them. He did not try to discuss philosophy. Only he discussed philosophy with great scholars such as Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya or Prakashananda Saraswati, etc., etc. He did not discuss philosophy. So in this time and age, the best thing is that we purely conduct chanting. Chanting means we are talking about Sankirtan. I'm not talking about only Japa. Japa has its value for one's own self. But Sankirtan means it has its great, tremendous value it has. Everyone participate in the same mood, with the same bhava, with the same pitch, with the same raga. It produces such a tremendous effect. Even 5-6 people chant, 2-3 people participate in Sankirtan, it has such a tremendous effect. In fact, the more people with that consciousness, the more tremendous effect it is going to produce. We are only not actually getting tuned to this process of Sankirtan. Otherwise, Sankirtan is so powerful. The minimum number of people required for Sankirtan is 2. Minimum number. And if you two people join, Sankirtan can happen. And it is not something new. This is what we have witnessed when Prabhupada went. He started the whole movement with Sankirtan. He sat under a tree and chanted Hare Krishna mantra, and people started coming and participating. That's how the whole movement started. I heard that, yesterday you were discussing there is some college people are coming. So many young people are coming and sitting here in the mornings. If we actually have a Sankirtan, they will also participate. Otherwise, they will speak about love affairs. This is a famous love spot. It will become a famous love spot otherwise. Soon it will become a famous, because nobody is going to disturb you. You can be sitting in any corner and discuss about it. Huh? That is good. That is good. Definitely good, that is. But the people's, their sattva is so low that if you give them beads, they will not chant. But they are forced to chant when there is a kirtan going on. Isn't it? The music and the loud sound vibrates their heart. They have to participate in the chant. So I think some devotees, if they can dedicate for this service, you don't have to go out and preach. Here people are coming. You simply sit here and then do Sankirtan, people will become devotees. And here is a praman for that. Here is a praman. In this verse, Prabhupada has given this praman. So we just have to have faith in this praman that Prabhupada has given. So these are some points. Anyone has any questions or comment? Yes.
In the beginning of the lecture, you said that when we are in association of pure persons, we'll get pure desires, and vice versa.
Yes.
So, how is that when we are in Goloka, how we fell down?
We fell down because we
completely pure association.
We have associated with certain desire. That is a very subtle thing. Whom we are associated with is what you are saying, which actually made us fall down. Right? It is said Jiva is Krishna's Amsha. Jiva is Krishna's Amsha. That means whatever Krishna has, Jiva also has in miniature quantity. So Krishna is supremely enjoying person. So Jiva also has tendency to enjoy. Jiva has tendency to enjoy. But Jiva's enjoyment depends on Krishna. That means Jiva is a dependent enjoyer, Krishna is independent enjoyer. So when the Jiva, instead of being a dependent enjoyer, he wants to be an independent enjoyer. So you may say, why did he want to be an independent enjoyer? That's his choice Krishna has given to him. When you have a choice, you can choose this or that. So now the choice is given to the Jiva. Either you want to be a dependent enjoyer or independent enjoyer. So most of the Jivas in the spiritual world, 99.99999 innumerable nines, will choose dependent enjoyment. One rascal may be there who wants to be an independent enjoyer. So he is given a facility for that. Just like in the what do you say, in the state affairs, not that everybody wants to go to jail. The criminals are very less in number. Most of the people are, they follow the order of the state. Similarly, in the spiritual world, most of the people, they follow the order of the state. And what is the order? That I am a dependent enjoyer, so let me enjoy with Krishna. Very one or two fellows who want to independently enjoy, they are sent here. So after sufficiently, beaten up, they'll again go back and, thank you very much, Krishna. You taught me a very wonderful lesson that the ill effects of choosing independent enjoyment. I have got it now, so I will never choose this again. So in this way, you go back to Krishna, you'll not come back to Krishna, come back to this world again. Don't ask me, that means everybody has to come down once to realize this? No. Just like you don't have to go to jail to live, come back. Every one of us have to go to jail, is it? To live peacefully in this world? No, you don't have to. You hear the laws of the state, you simply follow the laws of the state, that's it. You don't have to go to jail. Similarly, if you hear from Bhagavatam, that is sufficient. You don't have to personally experience the journey in the material world. So that is why it requires first-class intelligence. We have fourth class, fifth class, no class intelligence, in fact. That is what is the problem. Is that clear? Any other? Okay, we have crossed time also. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Grandharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Samveta Gaur Bhakta Bindha ki jai.